Namaste and welcome to Apna Gurukul Maths, one little step towards success. We are starting a new chapter, and this will be only one video for this chapter. That's coordinate geometry. It's a very small chapter, but a very important one when it comes to graphing and graphing equations, plotting different points on the graph. Right? So let's begin this chapter. So obvious question comes: what is the need of coordinate geometry? Now, geometry is always needed because whatever we have in our surroundings, it's all a part of geometry, right? We try to understand it in the form of shapes, in different kinds and forms. So that is why geometry is needed. Now, suppose if you have been asked to locate a point on the plane, how will you do that? Now, if I ask you to locate a point on the line, obviously we have number line, we have understood how to locate points on the number line, and all those concepts we have already done about that. But how do we locate a point on the plane? For example, I have a point here, a blue color point. If I ask you, only my question is, where is this point located? Sometimes you might think that it's to almost in the middle of this of my screen, or you could say in this white boundary it is somewhere down towards towards the bottom end, or you from left this much distance, from up you can tell 1 unit distance, from this side you can tell 4 units distance. Whatever you will do, you will try to locate its point, locates its where is this point located. Now just observe, my dear friend, while we are trying to give a position or give a direction to this point, how many instructions, at least how many instructions do we need? If this is me, if you are asking me to go, at least how many? At least you need two instructions, right? Suppose, let's take one more example. If I have to go to your home, okay, and at least how many instructions do you need to give, right? At least you should tell me what is the street and house number. Yeah. So over here as well, since we are working in a plane, okay, we need at least two instructions to locate this point correctly. Now, because of this understanding, to locate points, to locate a graph, to locate a line, to represent a line on a plane, we developed something called as Cartesian coordinate system. Not we. There was a French philosopher and mathematician called René Descartes who developed Cartesian system, and there's a very beautiful story related to that. René Descartes was a philosopher and who loves to think while he is lying on the bed. Now, one fine day, he was lying on the bed and he got this idea. Why not have two perpendicular lines together and keep it as a point of reference? For example, for this point, we were keeping this white line as a point of reference. From here, let's 1 unit, from this particular right end, 4 or 5 units, right? So he told René Descartes that why not keep a point of reference exactly perpendicular to each other, meeting at a 90-degree angle. And then he further made those perpendicular lines as number lines, and that is how we got the Cartesian coordinate system. So how do we plot such points on the coordinate system? To learn to be able to plot all these points on the graph, we must have an understanding of what exactly the graph is. As we already discussed, graph is number lines kept at perpendicular to each other, right? So over here, as you can see, the horizontal one is called as abscissa, horizontal number line, and the vertical number line, which is kept at a perpendicular to each other, is called as ordinate, and they both intersect at their zero values. Okay, zero of the vertical number line and zero of the horizontal number line, they intersect at that particular point. Now number line has a positive axis, a positive side, and a negative right. So abscissa is also called as x-axis. So the positive side of the number line is called as positive x-axis, and the negative is called as negative x-axis. The top side is called as positive y-axis, and the bottom side is called as negative y-axis. So negative x-axis is also called as x prime, and similarly negative y-axis is also called as y prime axis. I hope that is very much clear. Now over here, as you can see, there are four different quadrants. So those quadrants are named anti-clockwise. So first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. Yes, so that is how the quadrants are divided. So now we will try to understand what is the nature of points in the in the different quadrants. Now, when we look at the points which we had 5, 3, -5, 3, 0, 8, it is written in comma and a bracket form. What is the understanding of that? So this is called as ordinate form, where we write first the value of x and then the value of y. So these x and y are called as the coordinates. Now these coordinates are nothing but the points of the number line 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3, and all the even zeros. So they are coordinates of x-axis, coordinates of the y-axis. Yes. So if it is written as 5, 3, what is the meaning of that? The value of x is 5 and the value of y is 3. So now we will go step by step. First, we will try to understand the nature of the points in each of the quadrant. Then we will try to identify if there are points given, what are the coordinates of that. And the third thing we will do is, if the coordinates are given, how do we plot that coordinates in particular graph? I hope the agenda so far is clear. So when you look at the first quadrant, as I already told, it is decided anti-clockwise. Means the opposite direction of the clock. So second quadrant is here, third quadrant, fourth quadrant. So when you talk about the fourth quadrant, we are talking about this particular area. As we already discussed, we are finding how to plot, how to define something in a plane. So that is why this particular area of the plane is the first quadrant, this particular area is the second quadrant, this particular area is the third quadrant, and this one is the fourth quadrant. I hope that is very, very much clear to you all, to all of us. Now let's understand. As you can see, when we talk about the first quadrant, the x-axis is also positive, y-axis is also positive. So over here, the nature of coordinates is positive and positive. Y coordinate is also positive, x coordinate is also positive. When we talk about the second quadrant, as you see, the y coordinate is positive, but the x coordinate is negative. So the nature is negative and positive. If you are not able to understand now, when we talk about the examples, you will understand it very, very clearly. If you are able to understand, perfectly all right. Now y-axis in the third quadrant, as you can see, x is also negative and y is also negative. So what is the nature of the graph here? Negative and negative. In the fourth quadrant, as you can see, the x-axis is positive and y-axis is all negative. So that is the nature of these four quadrants. You can make a note of this. First quadrant, all positives. Second quadrant, x is negative, y is positive. Third quadrant, both are negative. Fourth quadrant, x is positive and y is negative. Now this particular thing about the coordinates and the nature of points on that particular coordinates, it's going to be there with us again and again. It will come to us. It will come in your physics when you study optics. It will be there when we study trigonometry. So please remember these four coordinates and the nature of points in these coordinates. So let's try to understand. If we have the graph and points are given, as you can see, I've taken almost 8 to 10 points. Let's try to understand how to mark all of them. So as you can see, there is a point of x, there is a point A which is marked in pink. So what do? Is we make a straight line which intersects the x-axis at 90 degrees. As you can see, it is intersecting at 90 degrees. Now, what point is it intersecting at? It is -5. So for the so point A, the x coordinate is -5. What is the y coordinate? Y coordinate, again the same thing. Try to extend this to the y coordinate such that it intersects at 90 degree. What point is it intersecting at? It is intersecting at 6. So the value, the coordinate of A is -5 comma 6, that is x is -5 and y is 6. Now did you understand? In the second quadrant, what was the nature? X was negative and the y was positive. Let's try to plot -2 similarly. Sorry, the point B similarly. I made a line over here, I made a line over here. So on the x-axis, it is intersecting at -6. So B is -6 comma, on the y-axis, it is intersecting at 2. So -6 comma 2. Whereas the C is over here in the first quadrant. Once again, extend this to x and y. As you can see here, it is intersecting, C is intersecting at 4 on the x-axis and 4 on the y-axis as well. So that, as you can see very clearly, since it is in the first quadrant, both are coming out to be positive. Similarly, we can plot D. I extended it to x-axis such that it intersects at 90 degree. I intersected it to y-axis such that it intersects the y-axis at 90 degrees. So D has a coordinate x-axis, it is 7, and y, it is intersecting at 9. So 7 comma 9 is the point of D. Now if you are very much clear, you can go forward and try to look for how do we plot the points on the graph. If you still have doubt, let's keep going a little slowly. Now we have to plot the point E again on x-axis and y-axis. So the point E is, as you can see, on the x-axis it is 8 and on the y-axis it is -4. Now what did we observe? In the fourth quadrant, all the points are of the nature positive x and negative y. We saw what? Verification as well. Let's try to plot F as well. We plot it over here and we extend it over here. So as you can see, the value of F is, it is intersecting x-axis at 6 and y-axis at -6. Yes or no? I hope that makes sense. Now let's move on to G. Now, once you have understood this concept, no need to make these lines every time. You can also make dotted lines if you want, but just keep the scale and you are able to identify it very easily. So if you have become comfortable, no need to make these lines every time. So G becomes -3 comma -5. Now what did we observe? That in the third quadrant, both the coordinates are negative. Similarly, if I try to do H directly, it is -7 comma -4. Yes. So again, we will try to verify it because we are learning it for the first time. So H goes to -4. I have written as correct on y-axis. On x-axis, it goes to -7. Let's move with I. I on x-axis, it is at -9 comma -8 on the x-axis. Now we have the point O. As you can see, the point O is exactly at the 0 of both the number lines. The O point is 0 comma 0 and this is called as the origin of the graph. Now every graph has this point compulsory. This is called as the origin. Now over here we have a point J. So as you can see, J is exactly on the y-axis. So what is the value of x on that? X is 0. So the value of J is, x value is 0 and y value is 3. Similarly, we have a point called K. Yes. So K is a point which is on the x-axis. So what is the value of y on the x-axis? It's 0. And what's the value of x-axis over here? 4 comma 0. So what do we observe? If we have a point on the number line itself, It is represented with, if it is on y-axis, the x coordinate is 0. If it's on x-axis, the y coordinate is 0. Now your question might be, the points which are there on the number line, which quadrant do they belong to? I repeat, the points which are there on the abscissa and ordinates, that is x and y axis, which coordinate do they belong to? My dear friends, you thought it right. They do not belong to any of the quadrants. They belong on the number line. That is what we have to just remember. Okay, now let us quickly understand how we will plot the, as you can see here, we have different points. How do we plot these points on the number line? Once we have to plot 5 comma 3, here is the graph. How do we proceed forward for plotting it? So the number one thing that we do is we start from the 0. Once we start from the 0, where do we have to move? Positive 5, right? So we move to positive 5. Then where do we have to move? We have to move positive 3. So we move positive 3 and we reach at this point. So this point we will name it as A, which is nothing but 5 comma 3. I hope that is clear. What was the second point? Second point was minus 5 comma 3. So where do we have to start? Again, we have to start from 0. This time we have to move minus 5. So always start with the movement with x-axis. You can also do that with y-axis, no problem at all. So minus 5 comma 3. So minus 5 comma 3 we reach over here. Yes. So this particular point we will name it as B, which is minus 5 comma 3. Yes. The other point over here is 0 comma 8. 0 comma 8. So now the x value is 0. That means it is not moving. We are generally directly going to 8 on y-axis. So this particular point we'll name it as C, which is 0 comma 8. Yes. Next point is 7 comma 0. 7 comma 0. That means we have to move 7 on the x-axis and we don't have to move anywhere on the y-axis. So this becomes D equals 7 comma 0. Let's plot one more point, 10 comma minus 9. 10 is in positive direction, right? 10 is in positive direction. We reach till 10 and then we have to go to minus 9. That means in towards down, right? So we reach minus 9 over here. So I'm sorry for the curved line. So this point becomes E equals 10 comma minus 9. Yes. And then one final point which we have to plot is minus 3 comma minus 6. So we move to minus 3 on x-axis and then minus 6 on the y-axis. We reach a point F, which is minus 3 comma minus 6. I hope all of these plotting the points is very, very much clear for all of you. Now this plotting of points is always important, and even when it comes to the understanding of the next chapter, this particular thing will be very, very, very much important, and very, very much it will bring much more clarity to our concepts in the next chapter. So before we start the next chapter, I have one interesting question for you. Now we have plotted different points. How will we plot an equation? Okay, so the number one thing we do is we try to find all the coordinates which satisfy this particular equation. Now what do we mean by satisfy? LHS equals to RHS. So x plus y, where x is the abscissa, y is the ordinate. So x plus y must be 6. So what are the coordinates? So we make a table. That is the process of plotting an equation on the number line, and we take a minimum or we can also say a maximum of 3 points. Okay, so if I take the value of x as 1, okay, so instead of x I put 1 plus y equals 6. So y will be 6. When it goes to the other side it becomes minus 1 and y value is 5. Now you might be thinking, why did I take the value of x as 1 only? You can take any value, my dear friend, because once we take the value of x, based on the value of x, the value of y will differ. Suppose I took the value of x as 0, so y will be 6. If I took the value of y as 0, x will be 6. Yes. So we have got 3 points. This is the first point, that is 1 comma 5. How will you plot it? quickly, how will you plot it? So we move 1 and then we move 5 on top, and here we reach. Again, there's by mistake, there are all the negatives. Actually, since it isn't on top, it's all positive, and the down ones are negative. There's a little mistake in the graph. I'm so sorry for that. The next thing is 0, comma 6. 0, comma 6. Obviously, 0 means x is 0. That means we are moving 6 on top, and then we have 6 comma 0. So 6 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. That means we remain here. When you connect these three lines, we get the solution of this particular equation, or the graph of x plus, this is the graph for x plus y equals to 6. And that is how we plot a line on the number line. With this, we end up the chapter on coordinate geometry. What are the main topics we discussed? We discussed about the coordinate, what is the nature of points over there, and then how do we plot a point on the graph, and then if the point is plotted, how do we recognize which point it is. And then we just extended the discussion to plotting a line on the number line. We will discuss about this as we move further in the chapter, in the next chapter. Thank you so much for your patience hearing. You are listening to Apna Gurukul Maths, one little step towards success. We'll see you in the next video with a new chapter. Until then, keep smiling. Jai Hind.